breaking speed records, there is a big element of luck involved, because the wind direction and the wind strength needs to be absolutely perfect. The wind direction plays a massive role in the amount of speed that you get. If the wind direction is a little bit off, and most of the days it is off in the beginning, and then it sort of picks up and turns in the right direction. Most of the times it peaks at the perfect condition for 2 hours, I would say 2 hours or 3 hours maximum. And then from there, it would turn back down in the wrong direction, or the strength would go down and it wouldn't be strong enough to reach that goal. So in a record breaking day, there is really a critical time period for you to do your thing. And in that time, everyone wants to go on the channel as many times as possible, because the more times you go, the more your chances increase of catching that record breaking gust that is going to carry you through all the way without the lulls. So there's a lot of pressure to manage when you are in this situation. You are working against your own energy running out physically, your body getting tired, your mind getting tired, physically running out of time period where the wind angle and strength is absolutely perfect for you to do your thing. It is also a constant battle to keep on being confident, because if you crash, there's 2 reasons why you would crash. The one reason would be your mistake. If you had not focused for a split second, if you had managed the gust wrong, if you read the gust wrong, if you did a bad start. And the second reason why you would crash is reasons that are out of your control. If the wind suddenly had to shift and push you into the bank, or if your gear had to fail you, if you had to get a spin out on your fin, or if your boom had to break. If your harness line had to break. These things can really add up to your stress level if you don't learn how to put it outside of your mind. The way I dealt with this was, before I came to the event, I purposefully watched Luderitz crashes, some of the worst crashes, over and over and over again, so that it could become more familiar to me and sort of almost normal to look at these things, see it happen, accept it, make peace with it, and move on. So this was really a critical part mentally for me, because my biggest fear is definitely that I would crash and become paralyzed. There is nothing that someone can tell you from the outside that would take that fear away. It's only that what you will do internally inside of yourself, how your thought process would work, that would help you cope under that kind of fear. I also had to accept and make a decision beforehand each and every single time that I accept taking on this risk. It is a calculated risk. Some people would never completely understand why you would do these things. You know, why would you take such a massive risk and do for a world speed record, even though it is a major accomplishment in the world of windsurfing. But for me, if I had to think about it, that tomorrow you could actually die in a car accident, and you could, as healthy person as you are, get cancer. And if you're going to constantly prevent yourself from going out of your comfort zone because you are scared of these risks that are always surrounding you, you will never be able to live, and you will never be able to push yourself into that growth phase where you're in a situation completely out of your comfort zone. And in that situation, it's the only place where you can really grow as a person internally. And so that is a very big calculated risk that I take in going to Luderitz. Some people would say that fear is really a bad thing. As an athlete doing extreme sports like this, you shouldn't have fear, you know, you should be completely fearless and you should put it out of your mind. But I actually use fear in a good way. I think fear is a very important part of my mental state when I compete at this event, because it puts that bit of vital logical thinking into you when conditions are beyond your personal abilities. You are also just human, so there will be a point in time where the conditions, the wind strength and your personal physical self, your weight and your strength, your mental capacity, there will be a time where the one overrides the other, and you need to have something in you that is going to tell you this is your limit and you should draw the line there. It would be very stupid if you try to be fearless, because that is the one mechanism that you have that would protect you from actually getting serious injury that could have been in your hands. You could have controlled it. So a very important part of Luderitz for me is actually learning when to stop. When I broke my record last year, I could have easily decided, okay, I am now the second fastest of the event this year. I'm fifth fastest in the world. I am at 44.55 knots average. The person in fourth place is basically 1 knot faster than me. The world record is 2 knots away from me. I could have easily forget about logic, throw my fear out of the window and pushed on towards the world record and took another run. But I knew in my last run and in my record run what I felt going down there. And at that point, even before I looked at my GPS and seeing my record, I knew that that was my last run and I couldn't push any further. And I was absolutely at peace with that. When I actually looked at my GPS, I almost thought that was a massive bonus. And it was almost a big shock. I didn't think that would ever be possible for me to reach that point in my physical state at that time. So that was more than enough for me for that time. And I felt if I have to go and push beyond that speed again and beyond those conditions again, I would need another year to prepare for that, and I would need to have another year to think everything over, to make new adjustments in my mindset and in my program, so that I am prepared for the conditions beyond that point. 1 knot sounds very small, but in the world of speed sailing, it's massive. If you are 2 knots away from the world record, it is a long way. It is not a short way. After 40 knots of average speed down the channel, every single increment of a knot you increase from there on was for me extremely difficult to reach, and I had to really work very, very hard to climb up towards the point where I'm at 44.55 knots. I think some people might think you just pitch there and you go as fast as you can down the channel and you'll be fine, you know, you'll set your record. But you cannot go to Luderitz if you are not fully prepared to go there. You really need to train very hard in order to go. Otherwise, it's completely absurd and unsafe for you to attempt going to the Luderitz Speed Challenge. For me personally, it was 4 months of a minimum of 3 hours every day training. 1 hour of that consisted only of shoulder rehab in order to gain back my functionality in my operated shoulder. And another hour of that was strength training, and another hour of that was cardiovascular training. That is only my off the water training. Normally then, if the wind starts to blow in Langebaan in August, I would also then be on the water for as many hours as possible. Because the more you windsurf, the greater advantage you also have, even though it's not the same discipline. During my preparation time, going to an event like that is a huge motivation. So mentally, it really pushes me through, and I try to, in the training time, visualize in my mind everything that I will be going through at the event itself, so that I simultaneously have mental and physical training. Luderitz Speed Challenge has taught me a big lesson, and that is that no one on the outside are ever able to motivate you. There is no such thing as someone motivating someone else to do something. Motivation comes from inside in yourself. It would have been easy for me to decide after my shoulder injury that no, you know, I'm not going to take part again. I'm not going to go again. It's too risky and I'm going to injure myself again. I'm not capable of doing it. It would have been very easy for me to do that. But the only person who could decide otherwise and to come back and try again was myself. No one could have motivated me at any point in time during the event to actually take my gear, load myself with weight and go into the start block when the wind is blowing way stronger than what I have ever experienced in my life. No one could have motivated me to do that. Not my dad even, who was with me all the time, or my husband, or my family, or my closest friends. The internal motivation to go into the start block, it only comes from yourself. In my second year at Luderitz, the wind picked up to a strength that I definitely haven't experienced ever in my life before, and the little rocks started to fly, and I was at that point in time frozen. I could not find the mental strength in me to motivate myself to get my gear and to go into the start block. At that point in time, a lot of the competitors were bailing out as well, and a lot of the very strong guys were still going on and pushing. And at that point in time, I knew that I didn't have the mental capacity to deal with that yet, and I withdrew. It was a very sad moment for me because I had to be disappointed in myself for not going out and trying. But I was actually grateful for that because I knew now, looking back, that at that time I was definitely not strong enough mentally to deal with that wind conditions. And if you are not fully committed from the word go, it's too dangerous for you to go at all. So that day I drove away from the channel, and I will never forget those moments. I was in tears and still in denial of the fact that I think I should have gone, I should have done it. But I'm glad I didn't, because I think that I definitely needed to grow a bit more before I could manage that conditions. Luckily, in the year leading up to the third time, which was last year, I went to Luderitz, I knew how that situation felt like, and I trained my mind to think about how it felt when the wind grew that strong and you see how the rocks started to fly and you get so nervous and you get unsure of yourself, you start to doubt yourself. And so I could preempt this situation because I knew I'm going to get in this situation, and I knew that I needed the strength to push myself through that. So each and every moment I trained for Luderitz last year, I visualized this situation. Last year, when the day came when the record-breaking winds were forecasted, I knew this is going to be the day I'm going to have to face these challenges. On this day, it was a really hard battle to climb up the ranks. I moved increment by increment. I climbed up half a knot, until a point where I just absolutely stood dead still at 43 knots and I couldn't budge above that. I was getting physically exhausted, mentally destroyed. It was draining because I knew this was my last day at the actual event, and it was the last moments of perfect conditions where the wind keeps on building and while being in the right direction, where I could actually push it for a good record. I had to, out of nothing, create a boost of energy in my system in that point in time. After being there for 2 weeks, the fatigue really starts to set in, especially if you have been pushing so hard every single day. And I knew at that point in time, before I took my last run, which was my record run, I knew that this is going to be the last run for me. I had one run of power left in me to do what I needed to do. At that point, the wind has grown stronger than what I've ever seen and experienced in my life. I didn't tell my dad that this is going to be my last run because I'm tired. I told him that we are putting 2 kilograms extra in my weight jacket because this is the strongest winds that I've ever taken on in my life. And I will definitely be breaking my record in this next run. I sort of almost convinced myself. Without any further doubt, we added the extra weight and I was back in the channel and I was preparing myself for my last run. And looking back, I wouldn't have been able to tell if that strong wind was wind that I would be able to manage. But I knew that I was not going nowhere near those thoughts. I'm going to do it this time. The wind was so strong at that point, I couldn't get up in a gust the way that most of the guys do it. I needed to actually wait for a lull because the wind was too strong for me to get up in a gust. It would basically just push me straight over my gear. So I waited for the moment that one of the monster gusts passed, and I didn't think for a split second longer. I was up and going at full speed. For those few seconds going down the channel with that immense amount of speed for the first time in my life felt almost like I did not touch the surface of the water. It was sort of like I completely zoned out for those few seconds, and somehow I didn't experience any reduced speeds in lulls at all during that run. It was almost like the gust took me from the beginning right through to the end. I knew that something just happened, like that was a new feeling. This could be a new record. But even though I didn't know my record at that time, I definitely have decided after that run and after the intense stop block session, which I managed just in time, I knew that that was going to be the last run for me physically, because when I went down there, I could feel in my body that that was maxing it out for me. I don't know if I was able to do anything stronger than that at that point in time. Before I could even look at my GPS, I've decided that I've learned so much during this time. I've grown so much during the time, and that would be more than enough for me. And then looking at my GPS, it was such a surprise. It was such a shock to see that what I could have accomplished, that I literally burst in tears. It was like everything that I've worked so hard for such a long time, with all the difficulties that I had, everything just paid off in those few seconds. And I knew that was it for me for 2019. Amongst everyone at Luderitz Speed Challenge, and all the speed sailors that compete there is really this feeling of camaraderie between the guys, because we are all in the same boat and we all face the same conditions, the same dangers, the same risks. And this is mutual understanding and respect for each other when you are part of this event. And that is absolutely priceless. Up to today, we still have a very deep connection with everyone that we competed with at the event. And this will never change. And you can never buy that sort of camaraderie with any type of money. I think that there is some misconception out there in the world about the reason why some of the guys compete at Luderitz Speed Challenge. I think that some people may think it's only because of records. It's only because of your profile as an athlete. But actually, when you go and dig deeper, most of the guys who are there for reasons that are very personal. Alberto Pussati, one of my greatest inspirations at the Luderitz Speed Challenge, and who is also together with Aurelio Verdi on the Speedboards project. In my first year when I went to Luderitz, he told me that the biggest thing behind speed sailing is to find your inner silence. And I now understand, after so many times of going to Luderitz, I understand exactly what he meant, and I made that principle my own. It sounds quite easy, finding your own silence, you just zone out, you put your music in, but it's not. It is a really difficult skill to learn. It is a space where you are able to block out everyone and everything, all the pressure from the outside, and everything that you were in your life dealing with at that certain point in time, whether it is windsurf related or in your personal life. It is the ability to block out everything and every expectation, every criticism, and focus on exactly your personal self and your moment. If I hadn't mastered that skill, I would have caved in through outside pressure, criticism, expectations, and fears of my situation with my shoulder. When it's your moment and when the wind is perfect, the direction is perfect, and it is your time to get up and get going, at the event like this, The pressure that you face after putting in months and months of preparation and everything that you have worked so hard for boils down to one single moment. The amount of pressure in that space is something that no one can describe if you haven't been there. It is really a lot to deal with. And if everything boils down to those few seconds going down the channel, just the thought of that alone can affect your performance. It really takes a lot of power to overcome all that pressure. One of the things for me personally that's very important is to decide beforehand who I allow in my personal space during that time, whether it is people at the event or people outside of the event through social media and through WhatsApp, through my platforms. Because this is a time where you really need to be selfish and you only allow people whom you trust deeply inside of your bubble during this time. And this is not always easy, but it's a really important step to take for me personally. I personally want to thank Raffaello Gardelli from Surf and Curve. He is the man behind this world-class event who makes it into what it is today, something that the whole world of windsurfing looks up to. There is actually no words that can be enough ever to thank him for all the work that he's done on this event. It is probably one of the most difficult windsurf events to arrange. The amount of hours and days and months and years of work that is put into the event is more than what anyone can ever imagine. We are all extremely grateful that we have the privilege to be part of this amazing world that he has created for all of us.